Hey everybody, welcome back to Chronic Woodwork. Today is episode 10 and we are making this black walnut glass river table. Fair warning, this is my longest video yet, but I did a lot of searching online and just found pictures. Nowhere did I find a how-to video of how to build one of these awesome tables. So this is my best attempt at a how-to video. Without further ado, here we go.
The very first thing I did was find an 8-quarter black walnut live edge slab. The thing cost me I think $100, but I made sure I had Dixie's approval first. I then laid out my slab and prepared to cross cut it to length. The length was 44 inches, which was the length of my glass. I set up a guide as square as I could and made the cross cuts. I then found the center of the log and ripped it right down the middle. Obviously, I ran out of battery right in the middle of my cut. Once the log was in half, I flipped one edge to create that river shape. I placed my piece of glass on top and just drew a line for the rough shape of the river I wanted to follow as I attempted to cut the glass. I had a scrap piece of glass, so I made some practice cuts with my new glass cutter, and I had varying degrees of success, but I felt good enough to try it. The glass I was using for real was obviously much thicker, but as soon as I put my glass cutter to it, I just kind of felt like something was wrong. Turns out I was right. I was using tempered glass.
So glass cutting was a pretty big failure. After I pulled the shards of glass out of my hand, I'm going to consult a professional glass cutter. Heading there now.
And that's when I met Darlene, the glass wizard. She was able to cut a piece of glass to 44 inches, which was my original length, and was even able to trace it. If I attempt this project again, I will definitely try to cut my own glass, just with the correct type. I then determined the desired width of my table, and I etched the shape of that glass onto the live edge pieces. My first idea was to freehand route to the line that I had just etched from the glass river. Turns out it was a bad idea. I was able to set my router to about 1/4 of an inch deep, which was the thickness of my glass, but at the end of the day, it just wasn't accurate enough. There had to be a better way.
Okay, so I'm here with the slab now, and I've got that rabbited edge complete. As you saw in the video, I was just trying to freehand route to the edge, and it's just not a very good fit. So we've gotten to the point, I don't want to waste too much more material, so I'm just going to call an audible and figure out a different way to proceed. So let me flip the camera around and show you how not satisfied I am with this edge. Here's kind of a close-up of that rabbited edge. As you can see, there's some spaces in here. I reached out to some people on Instagram, and they had some good ideas, but what I finally came up with after talking to a buddy, actually my old boss, was to take the trash piece of glass, that negative piece of glass, and use it to form a template with a router. So that's how we're going to proceed from here on out.
So I bought a 2x4 sheet of 1/2 inch MDF and just ripped it in half, one for each side of the negative glass. I then fixed the 2 pieces of scrap glass to my 2 pieces of MDF with some mounting tape and took it to the router. This was definitely terrifying. Make sure you wear some eye protection, but if you set the router to the right height, it's really not that dangerous.
I think we're set up here. We've got the plunge router set up with a little edge guard, that insert, and that's set at about just over 1/4 of an inch deep. And then the edge that I routed, that live edge with the glass template, I've set up and I've secured it down to my live edge. So it should be as simple as running this router, this plunge router, along that edge to get the exact contour to the glass that we need.
And honestly, it worked like a charm. I made a couple passes and tried to make that rabbet as even as possible, make it 1/4 inch deep everywhere, that way the glass sat flush. I cleaned up all the dust and had a great fit. Then came the boring part. I think I started with 100 grit, worked 100, 120, 220, and I even hit it with a card scraper. It was my first experience with the card scraper, but it was pretty awesome. I then applied, I believe, 5 coats of Minwax wipe-on polyurethane. It's very easy, kind of foolproof. I just sanded lightly with some 400 grit sandpaper between each coat. It was then time to install the legs. I ordered the legs from an Etsy shop called Base Metal Design. I'd highly recommend them. They're super high quality, but this is when I figured out probably my biggest problem of the project. It's no fault of the company, it was my fault. And I will post a link to their Etsy shop in the description below.
The legs are not even, and that's based off the shape of that river. So what I've decided to do, I bought a grinding wheel, and we're going to reshape that leg, or at least cut off part of that mounting plate, so I can place the legs symmetrically.
So I unscrewed one leg and moved it out so that way the legs were evenly distributed on the table. It just provides for a more stable base. and then I marked a line where I needed to cut, and that was based off the contour of the live edge of the slab.
So I've never cut metal before, so we're gonna just kind of do it live, see how it goes.
I will admit that cutting metal the very first time was pretty nerve-wracking. It ultimately worked out, but I used my wood-turning mask and some gardening gloves to provide a little extra protection, so I apologize for looking goofy. If there are any metal workers out there, I'd be happy to hear some advice as to my technique or anything else. And finally, I was able to install the legs where I wanted. It felt stable and had a real good fit with the glass, so I brought it inside to show it off and take some glamour shots. As always, I really appreciate you all watching. If you're so inclined, please hit that subscribe button. If not, we will catch you next time. If you end up building a river table, please post a picture below. I'd like to see it. Good luck.